I've always said supply will become something very difficult. We've seen that over 4 years, certainly, with whether it be the inefficiencies of the U.S. Mint or any of the difficulties we've had over 3 years securing product. At some point, it goes from normal, where you can go to a company like mine or a local coin shop and buy stuff, to just the blink of an eye, it switches off. And a bail-in would be a perfect example of how that happens, because we added 14,000 clients in 45 days in March and April when Silicon and Signature failed. I've never seen such anxiety in my life. We were working 18 hours a day, all of us.
Over the past years, there have been a lot of warnings about an impending silver supply shortage from experts within and outside the metals industry. Because of the metal's growing industrial applications, especially in the renewable energy sector, there has been increased demand for it. On the other hand, supply has been really flat and even dropped lower most times because of the metal's low price. According to First Majestic Silver CEO Keith Neumeyer, low prices means mining companies are not being properly compensated for all they do to get the silver to us. So, most just leave the metal underground until it becomes rewarding enough for them to go through the trouble. In a report published earlier this year, the Silver Institute pegged the global demand for silver at a record high of 1.24 billion ounces in 2022, 18% more than the previous year's demand. The Institute also predicted there would be more massive supply deficits in the years to come. According to the Institute, there was a 237.7 million ounces supply deficit in 2022, possibly the most ever recorded for the metal. Yet, it expects more deficits in 2023 and more years ahead. Neumeyer and the Silver Institute speak of a global silver supply shortage, but Andy Schectman, a popular precious metals analyst and the president of Miles Franklin Precious Metals, is warning investors in the United States to first prepare for a nationwide supply of the metal. According to the popular analyst and stacker, the U.S. banking industry is uncomfortably close to another severe crisis. When the crisis hits, Andy expects it to take out one or more banks and cause a ripple effect through the whole industry. He adds that the contagion will not stop in the banking industry and will quickly spread through the economy, which is why, as soon as people get the first hint of a coming collapse, they will begin to rush into safe haven assets like gold and silver, Andy predicts. During a recent interview with Bix Weir, the Miles Franklin president explains that American investors have placed such full trust in banks that they are not even thinking about a collapse and what one would mean for their savings. But Andy believes they will start thinking and taking action fast when the time comes. After the first bail-in, Andy says there's going to be such a mad rush for silver and gold that both metals will not be as readily available as they are right now, especially silver. This is why he is predicting massive supply deficits for the metal in the United States and warning prudent investors to take immediate action before things get really crazy. We will now bring you clips from Andy's recent interview with Road to Ruta. Please watch, share, and like this video. Also, ensure you subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications for more videos, and don't forget to drop your comments and reactions in the comments section below. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
Keith Neumeyer is a friend of mine, and I try and catch when he's around. I always go and talk with him when I'm at shows with him or whatnot, but he said something the other day that I found to be really very interesting. For those of you who don't know, Keith is the CEO of First Majestic Silver, and he sticks out to me because he's a businessman. He's not a geologist in an industry dominated in terms of CEOs by very dry, boring executives who whole life has been spent studying rocks. Keith is a rock star businessman, and he said something very interesting, that what he's noticing this year in his speaking engagements around the country is that for the first time ever, he's seeing auto manufacturers at these shows. They're going directly to the show to talk to guys like Keith, to disintermediate the exchanges and go right to the source to secure their silver going forward. You can see an acceleration not only of the drawdown of the exchanges like the Shanghai Futures and the Shanghai Metals Exchange to their lowest levels since silver squeeze. Same thing with COMEX, same thing with the LBMA, same thing with the ETFs being backdoored. And now they're trying to, in an opaque fashion, go right to the source, disintermediate the process, and make it a much more private affair. Well, I never thought I'd see close to 20 states recognize silver as legal tender if issued in the form of a coin, past or present, from a sovereign mint. Now, few of the states say, US only. Quite frankly, as an American, I think by far it is the best choice. We can talk about the fact that most people have never seen a gold or silver coin ever before in this country. So having something that is recognized as legal tender in this country, I think is a huge deal. We can talk about, Bill Holter, my friend Bill, and I can say this because he's said it publicly. And Jim Sinclair, his former partner, told me personally, and I've heard him say it publicly, that his family is related to the Goldmans and Goldman Sachs. Jim's real last name is Seligman. His father is Murray Seligman, a very famous trader on Wall Street. I think he was involved in liquidating the Hunt Brothers portfolio. Google him, he pops up, Murray Seligman. But Jim told me that he was told by his family, someone in his family, that there would be two resets. And you could argue we are in the midst of the first, which he said would be man-made, and it wouldn't work. And when the second reset came around, that was authored in by Mother Nature, that the powers that be would confiscate things in this country that were not American in origin. Now, I can't vouch for that other than that I heard it. It was said to me personally. Look, there are reasons to buy the American Eagle coin. For me, they're the most sought after, at least as a business owner. It's what I pretty much buy exclusively, American Eagle gold, silver, American Buffalo gold. I think that they're the most sought after coin in this country. And if we see a transition back to all of these states like we're seeing that are passing laws like Missouri and Kansas and Alaska and Idaho and Texas and Nevada and Wyoming and North Carolina, Oklahoma, Arkansas, the list goes on and on. These states are actually allowing gold and silver to be legal tender for all debts, public and private. And I think in that environment where there is pushback to central bank digital currency, where there is acknowledgement of gold's role or silver's role as money, then having an American Eagle, I think, will be worth paying a little bit of an extra premium right now. Now, I wouldn't have said this over the last 3 years when the premiums were out of sight. But right now, they're close enough to the rest of the sovereign coins where I would 100%, I wouldn't even think twice. To me, my favorite choice would be Silver Eagles right now.
Andy is predicting a silver supply crunch that could make it difficult to purchase silver in the United States. He believes the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve will reveal their endgame when another banking sector collapse hits. Whether it's a bail-in or the announcement of a central bank digital currency, CBDC, Andy says you certainly want to be properly invested in gold and silver to cushion the blow. This is not just some hypothetical crisis, the analyst adds. It's now only a matter of when and not if. During his discussion with Bix, Andy further discusses what he thinks the collapse will look like and the impact it will have on the economy of the United States.
The thing that most people don't quite grasp yet is that at the end of the 2008 financial crisis, the Dodd-Frank law was put into place. And this was put into place so that the mistakes from '08 wouldn't be replicated or duplicated again down the road. And here we are down the road and we see banks fail. And what did Dodd-Frank say? Dodd-Frank said that bailouts wouldn't be legal. And yet Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank were bailed out. And that was why there was such outrage from the Republican senator from Oklahoma who questioned why this was being allowed when the law said it wasn't. And, just a side note to that, by the way, not enough light has been shed upon the fact, in my opinion, that when there was another subcommittee hearing, Republican subcommittee hearing, or House subcommittee hearing on Silicon Valley Bank, and for 3 years, 10 accounts held $14 billion in checking accounts for 3 years in Silicon Valley Bank. And that's with interest rates at barely above zero, with FDIC insurance of $250. You have 10 accounts with on average $1.4 billion in them each for 3 years. Now, where the hell was risk management of the corporation, of the bank, and of FDIC? And why were these banks not bailed in the way that Dodd-Frank says? Well, Janet says they are too systemic, which is just a bunch of bullshit. They should have lost everything. They should have been bailed in. That's what the law said. And that's what people are missing. because Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, all of these banks that, the one in Kansas, U.S. Bank,
Heartland Tri-State.
Yeah, all of these banks that have failed have either been eaten up by J.P. Morgan or have been bailed out by the FDIC and the Fed, supposedly not at the cost of the taxpayer. But what I'm getting at is that when you look at the banks that are hanging on by a thread, like Schwab, like PNC, like all of these banks who have huge amounts of money borrowed from this new short-term emergency lending program by the Fed that's all due back in about 6 months. Some of them, like Schwab, I believe, has borrowed as much as 130% of equity. There's some banks that are just barely hanging on by a thread. And as the banks continue to sell their assets to meet redemption requests, it pushes rates up higher and higher and higher. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is going to obliterate the banks, but what no one is remembering, or not enough of us, is that the banks will be bailed in. And they're going to make a point of that happening one of these days. And when that happens, the amount of anxiety and chaos, I think, will be unlike anything we've ever seen, because that's something that most people couldn't even fathom. Since we were little kids, we're putting nickels and dimes in a piggy bank, thinking that it's safe. We put our paychecks in the bank because it's safe. Yeah, when you invest it in stocks, that's risky. When you invest it in bonds or gold or silver, that's risky, right? You put it in the bank, it's not, until it is. And I don't think people grasp that yet. In fact, most people I come across day to day, Bix, they don't know what bail-ins are. They have no idea. And that is when I think it really gets crazy in this industry.
A few days ago, Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki penned similar warnings about an impending collapse and how silver will thrive in such an environment. In a post to his 2.4 million followers on social media platform X, Robert wrote, "Biggest investment bargain. Silver is still 50% below all-time high in demand by greeny solar EVs. Silver is the second most used commodity after oil. Silver has been money for centuries. Who can't afford one silver coin, yet most people prefer to save counterfeit fake dollars. Sad." Though they are communicating using different words, Andy and Robert are both emphasizing the importance of getting your wealth completely out of the system, so you will not be one of the many victims of the next crash. What do you think about their predictions? Do you think the possibility of another banking sector collapse is currently overstated or not being discussed enough? Please share your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.